welcome back to Not Now in Theaters. My name is Will Turntail, and I'm a writer and film fan from California. Wow, it's December 9th today. It's been a little while since I've put out an episode, and I appreciate you listeners who have been patient and are checking out this episode. I didn't die, I didn't get hurt, I just took a long break for the Thanksgiving holiday. And because I had hit 50 episodes and the 1-year mark of this show, I needed a break and some time away to think of how to do it potentially better. This episode brings up the second year of doing this podcast, and I've got some ideas on how I can, in fact, make them even better for you. And this episode is about S. Craig Zahler's crime thriller, Dragged Across Concrete. That may be a bit of a surprise because I had talked about doing different episodes when we got back to the show, but I think you'll like this one. If you're not familiar with the movie, this is S. Craig Zahler, the writer-director who made the infamous horror western Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell and the grindhouse-style prison action thriller Brawl in Cell Block 99 with Vince Vaughn, which I covered in a previous episode. This movie is not as hard to watch as either of those two, but that's not to say it doesn't have its difficulties. And it's not just Zahler's penchant for unexpected, hard-to-watch violence at work. There are some things about this movie that make people uncomfortable, which we'll get to. But I find all of that brave, which we'll also get to. Before we start, a reminder that making films is hard and you have to respect that. So any criticisms are meant to be constructive. This review will contain spoilers. I'll do my best to call them out for you before they come up. Okay, let's get to it. Dragged Across Concrete 2018 review, Zahler's slow-cooked crime thriller. Writer-director S. Craig Zahler's movies are like demonstration playgrounds for his imagination. Working within smaller budgets, he sacrifices widespread box office appeal for final cut and niche fandom. And while on the surface, 2018's Dragged Across Concrete is the most grounded of his 3 movies to date, it's still a long, indulgent work belonging to Zahler's pseudo-reality more than ours. As Zahler has said, I'm not chasing the biggest audience. I'm aware there are lines and moments in my films and books and future movies that will land poorly for some people or get people to hate me. That is your right. And living up to this quote from Zahler, Dragged Across Concrete is single-minded in reaching his vision, one that could alienate many. The film was influenced by Stanley Kubrick's noir The Killing, which I'll admit I haven't seen, and Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon and corrupt cop thriller Prince of the City. And Dragged Across Concrete plays out as gritty as its vivid title implies, a morality tale unfolding with desperate players on opposite sides of the law. Except that line between moral and amoral is drawn in number 2 pencil, if at all. Police corruption is a heavy theme, but it's when you toss in the film's unfiltered depiction of racism and violence that Zahler creeps close to the cinematic cliffs of no return. But let's keep the pin in the grenade here and come back to that potential controversy in just a minute. For this film, Zahler would be working with his biggest budget yet, $15 million. A minimal amount for many filmmakers, but still 3 to 4 times anything Zahler had had before. And Zahler was happy to welcome back the star of his previous film, Brawl in Cell Block 99, Vince Vaughn. And with Vaughn in Zahler's corner making contact and playing advocate, the director was able to land his preferred choice for the lead, Mel Gibson. Toy, that name thuds in the air, doesn't it? As I write this, and as you read this, somewhere faintly must be a sad and sarcastic blowing of horns. No? I mean, Mel friggin' Gibson? You can see what I mean about Zahler's unflinching attitude toward controversy. For the record, I'm not saying casting Mel Gibson is some kind of sin. Whether or not you believe in second chances and redemption for a guy with the off-screen controversies he's had is up to you. But you have to know, when you cast a man in a lead role who has made headlines in real life for allegedly saying racist and homophobic things to play a part where the character and his wife discuss potentially racist things, it's awkward. And the key word I want to emphasize here is allegedly. I wasn't there. But getting back to the production story, since Vaughn and Gibson had recently teamed up for Gibson's critically acclaimed war film Hacksaw Ridge, Vaughn was happy to make the introduction to Gibson and help pitch the project. And Vaughn succeeded in persuading Gibson. So with Gibson, Vaughn, and the rest of the cast on board, the film was shot in Vancouver, British Columbia, and released by Summit Entertainment. Reviews since have been mixed to positive. Not quite the film fan acclaim I've seen out there for Zahler's chilling cannibals and cowboy western horror Bone Tomahawk, or his grindhouse prison actioner Brawl in Cell Block 99. But despite these potential warning signs, I had faith Zahler's creativity could once again come out on top. So was Dragged Across Concrete a good movie? The plot of Dragged Across Concrete. Henry Johns has just been released from prison, but finding his family living in squalor, he may just be ready to risk a trip back. He needs money, and fast. Luckily, Henry's longtime friend Biscuit has the lead on a new criminal in town looking to hire some experienced help. Meanwhile, Detective Brett Ridgman and his partner, Detective Anthony Lorassetti, get caught in a police brutality video scandal and are suspended. When Ridgman decides to solve his financial problems by unlawful means, he lures Lorassetti into helping. Will Ridgman and Lorassetti's plot to rob some robbers succeed? And just to walk you through the cast of this movie, Henry Johns is played by Tory Kittles, Biscuit by Michael Jai White, Detective Brett Ridgman by Mel Gibson, Detective Anthony Lorassetti by Vince Vaughn. And you can read the rest of the main cast in the transcripts. So now that you understand the plot, let's talk about what's good in this movie. The first thing we'll call dialogue, which throws out 2 points. Zahler lathers his dialogue with a bubbling theatrical quality. Yet while at moments it came across a little hokey in Bone Tomahawk, Concrete's batch of words rang sharp. It feels like the well of fresh takes on cop dramas dried up 2 decades ago. Yet Ridgman and Lorassetti get lovingly irritated with each other in a buddy cop way that rehydrates the formula. On a stakeout, Ridgman quips that a single ant could eat Lorassetti's sandwich faster than he can. And when things inevitably get heavy, there's Lorassetti summing everything up with, "This is bad for you, it's bad for me. It's bad like lasagna in a can." As a writer, there are lines you wish you had written. Next, let's discuss the quiet, long style of Zahler, which adds 3 points. And please note that there are some minor spoilers here. With a 2-hour and 39-minute runtime, Zahler gives himself the freedom to take his time and does so. Few other filmmakers would let Vince Vaughn's Lorassetti crunch away at a sandwich for several minutes. But that's not to say he's adding dead air. Even if a scene is quiet time with the characters, he's filling them, or the world they inhabit, out. And the length partially frees his film. Given their time constraints, films are often beholden to structure. You must advance the plot to fill it all in. But with the extra length and winding style, Concrete buries its plot rails deeper. The film doesn't have to signal its audience, hey, pay attention because this is the inciting incident around the 25th minute. Or look, buckle up for the conclusion now. There's enough slack to let it glide. And Zahler delivers it all straight, adding to our surprise. Ridgman and Lorassetti are suspended for a video of them brutalizing a suspect. Another movie would likely show Ridgman with his foot on the man's throat at the fire escape and cut to someone filming it on their phone a short distance away. Instead, Zahler's characters and audience find out about the video at the same time, and we're just as surprised as the officers are. Unless I just ruined this for you with a spoiler. Sorry. Action scene, we don't cue the audience that someone is going for their gun with cuts, building anticipation. Flat as a conversation, the characters raise their weapons when they want to and blast. And the audience is as shocked as the characters. I've written about these aspects of Zahler's quiet style before. Still, in Concrete, I noticed a new wrinkle. The plain tones strip away the heroism and plop the movie into more ambiguity. 2 people move, one comes out on top. Bang, done. It's up to the audience to decide which had might or right on their side. Next up, let's discuss the film's performances, which add 2 points. Like real-life baggage bleeding into art, Mel Gibson plays the lead role of the rugged and worn-down Detective Ridgman. Nearing retirement age, Ridgman is jaded from years of police work with a salary that keeps him in the wrong part of town, which he sees as some reward for all the criminals he's taken off the streets. Miscreants throw sodas at his daughter on her way home from school, and his wife suffers from multiple sclerosis and is unable to work. His options limited, Ridgman turns to crime to escape his circumstances. With all the off-screen controversy surrounding Mel Gibson, his presence raises questions in my mind, and I would imagine it's the same for other audiences. But there's no doubt his performance as a family man trying to do something he has to keep reassuring himself is his right to do objectively works. And there's his commanding officer, played by Don Johnson, of all people. As the film flashes to pictures of real-life young Mel and Don, Mr. Lethal Weapon and Mr. Miami Vice, side by side, it seems to reinforce the roles even harder. Mr. Smooth and politically savvy going one way, Mr. Beat Cop cycling partners and staying put. Tory Kittles puts in a searing performance as Henry. He gives us the hint that Henry is foxier than he comes across to those who would cross him. And Vince Vaughn shines as Lurisetti, the partner-in-law and now in crime. He's more refined than Ridgman, but Vaughn plays him with a steel that helps you understand how he's earned Ridgman's respect. Next, we've got the film's dark world, Darker Needs, which adds a point. Similar to Zahler's Brawl in Cell Block 99, it is necessity that drives people in the film, not a quote good or quote bad agenda. Whether it's Henry's decision to return to crime or Ridgman's first foray into it, there's hardly a difference between the two, if at all. Both men just want to help their families. This time around, the heroes and villains are not as clear, if at all. The cowboys and cannibals of his chilling bone Tomahawk were easy to separate. And though his thrilling Brawl in Cell Block 99 was centered around a criminal, main character Bradley was, at heart, a family guy in a tough-as-nails spot. Here, we're not sure, and it's a strength of the movie. And now we have to mention how the movie goes off the beaten path, which adds a point. And another spoiler alert here. If you don't want to hear it, just use the chapter skip. Thanks most likely to Zahler's creative control, the film branches into subplots that most other movies aren't allowed. For example, the film abruptly switches to following Kelly Summer, played by Jennifer Carpenter, who has an otherworldly case of separation anxiety from her young child. Despite her new baby leave being up, she ditches the bus to work, rushing home in a panic. Her husband pleads with her to go back and earn for the family, speaking to her through the door chain. With a kiss of her child's wiggling feet, she's off. And she returns to an otherworldly workplace. Her manager is overly gracious at her arrival, and all the other employees stop work to congratulate her on her child and welcome her back. It's like a feel-good commercial, a bubble fake world. This bright tonal shift and side character pivot should be jarring and nonsensical, but it works. We see these unfortunate employees for what they are. Lambs about to enter danger. Most studios would toss this to the cutting room floor, but Zahler was able to preserve scenes like this. And the film is a more interesting experience for it. So now let's get into what I thought could have been improved about the movie. First up, we'll call this one, "Sup with your salary, bro?" And it takes away a point. Okay, call it a nitpick here. But even though Lurisetti and Ridgman are partners, Lurisetti dines on wine and has what looks like a jazz-themed penthouse while Ridgman holds up with his family on the wrong side of town. While Ridgman has 2 more people to feed, I didn't understand how he could be so desperate for cash while his partner, Lurisetti, has the bills to keep things stylish and plunk down for expensive engagement rings. Next, this one is called A Realistic Turn, and it takes away a point. Ridgman is suspended for police brutality, and I bought his non-calculated, physically reactionary cruelty, like putting his foot on a suspect's head. That's the type of indiscretion that you can see born from years of frustration. But when you get a rounded picture of his character, his other actions fall out of sync. After she's harassed on the streets, Ridgman invites his daughter to watch a lion cub documentary with him to calm her. But you have to believe the same loving father, earlier that day, dragged the naked woman suspect into a shower, refused to let her get dressed after he made her dripping wet, and turned on the fans in the bedroom to make her even colder and uncomfortable as he interrogated her. This type of code switching happens with mobsters on film. Think Joe Pesci's frightening Nicky Santoro in Casino, coming home to make breakfast for his son after perhaps a night of shoving people's heads in devices or worse. But I can't buy the thoughtful cruelty from a grouchy officer who seems to have started his career on the moral high ground. Still, this is another constructive criticism that doesn't truly affect the film. The big picture of why Ridgman becomes desperate, line-crossing shadow Ridgman is still clear. So adding everything up, Dragged Across Concrete scores 7 points. On my scale of let's not watch, should I watch, or go watch this movie, I'm going to give it my should I watch rating. S. Craig Zahler has a gift for wading into muddy waters and emerging with an entertaining, thought-provoking film. Dragged Across Concrete is a bleak morality tale. It's a churning thriller that captivates you because, like a real life where justice isn't guaranteed, no outcome feels safe. But it's full of the rough stuff. It's a long-running, morally challenging film that isn't afraid to expose a few murky corners that most films would swerve. So if you're in the mood for a popcorn film, this isn't the ticket. But if you have the patience and interest in an endurance challenge, there's a unique vision waiting here for you to digest. The legacy of Dragged Across Concrete. So what is the legacy of Dragged Across Concrete? Well, in a very strange move, at the 40th Golden Raspberry Awards, it was nominated for a new category called Worst Reckless Disregard for Human Life and Public Property. This nomination was criticized by the British online magazine What Culture. Their logic was that the awards wanted to make up a category like that so they could nominate Joker and get social media attention. But the awards had to lump films like Dragged Across Concrete in there to make the category look more legitimate when it was really just a social media stunt. I think that's sound logic from What Culture because while there's loss of life and disregard for it in Dragged Across Concrete, it's not rampant. But the movie was very much also nominated for 4 Saturn Awards: Best Thriller Film, Best Actor for Mel Gibson, Best Makeup, and Best Writing. The film received more positive reviews than negative, but it didn't earn unanimous praise. You can see its current 76% critical, 67% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes at time of writing as a barometer of how this one generally goes down. Of the 3 Zahler films so far, I would say this one is probably the least known, though I'm not 100% on that. Bone Tomahawk, of course, has to be his biggest out there so far, at least in my perception. But as Zahler's 3rd film, it continues his reputation for making long, patient movies that explode into shocking violence whenever. Part of this film's legacy is that it is somewhat controversial. People often discuss this film, trying to figure out whether it is a movie being critical of or endorsing the way the cops and criminals behave. I think it's more like a Kurosawa film might do, putting the things out there and not necessarily telling you what to think. And in this era, where movies have shrunk away from risk more and more, whether you like Zahler's films or not, you have to respect his bravery in making them open like that. For Mel Gibson, well, you might argue that this movie was his most praised or among his most praised roles in quite a while. For Vince Vaughn, it was another dramatic film, helping add to the growing list of movies he had done to swing back away from comedy and into drama. And I'm sure Tory Kittles got some attention with this performance, though he'd been well established as an actor. He's gone on to be in more movies and TV shows like The Equalizer. Apologies to any actors I didn't highlight. S. Craig Zahler, if you don't know, is an author, comic book writer and illustrator, filmmaker, and musician. You can find 9 works in the bibliography section of his Wikipedia page, and he's known as his stage name Czar when he's making metal music. I think it's Czar, it's C-Z-A-R. It also says on his page that In May 2024, Variety says his next project is called The Bookie and the Bruiser, once again teaming up with Vince Vaughn. Its IMDb page says, guy in a lot of movies right now, Theo James, and Zahler regular Fred Melamed are also in the cast. A Variety article about James's casting says the two partner up as a bookmaker and his enforcer and run an illicit gambling operation that proves highly profitable, but dangerous. Their operation thrives until they're caught in a violent power struggle between the mafia and an Irish gang, forcing them into a violent fight for survival. So I'll have to watch out for that movie. I've seen a ton of mob movies with that type of premise, but if it's a Zahler one, you know it's going to get hard-hitting at some point and do things differently. Okay, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't seen it yet, I hope you'll check out Dragged Across Concrete. And if you have watched it, what do you think of the movie? Is it slow and captivating or just slow and yeah, whatever? You can reach out and let me know on Blue Sky using the link in the transcript, or just search for Will Turn Tell. And if you like this episode, would you take a minute or two of your time to leave me a review wherever you're listening from if you haven't done that already? A few people have left reviews, and I so appreciate that. It makes a massive difference. Or if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. New episodes of this podcast come out on Tuesdays. Next week's episode will be about David Cronenberg's cult classic telekinesis and psycho powers movie, Scanners. I never realized the total legend Michael Ironside was in that movie, and if I did, maybe I would have seen it earlier. But I delayed watching it for a long time, which I'll tell you some more about in the episode. So be sure to come back next week for my thoughts on Scanners. This podcast episode is a production copyright of Overegged Media, LLC, located in Sacramento, California. Reference photos linked in the transcript are copyrighted by the Internet Movie Database. This review's factual information was gathered through online sources like Wikipedia, IMDb, or interviews. So misrepresentations and errors are possible, but unintentional. Introduction music, Neon Laser Horizon by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The exit music is Voxel Revolution. The additional music is Tyrant and Aerosol of My Love. All of those songs are by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. They're all licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Goodbye for now.